So I wrote this book, which I published the summer of 2017. This was such an exciting, this was such an exciting book. It brings back just so much. Just looking at it, leafing through it. Am I the only one who loves to do this? Like there's something so like satisfying, like snapping bubble wrap. Same sort of feeling. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I mean? The following year I published this book, Worlds Beneath, which to date is my favorite book I've ever written. It still has this is the proof copy. The paperback's not even out yet. This is the last one, guys. This is the last one, and it comes out this weekend. I've been thinking so much lately about how as writers and as creatives, we really don't take enough time in most cases. Some of you guys are ahead of the game and you take time to be mindful and celebrate victories like publishing a book, and props to you. I am learning from you. Please keep staying true so I can adopt those healthy habits into my life. But man, we need to take more time to celebrate victories and celebrate like, wow, I wrote these books and I published them and I was able to take a story that I felt in my heart and in my spirit and translate it into language and give it to the world, give it to someone else and share it and create community around story. And that is so special. That is so needed. We need to keep doing this. This is a good, beautiful thing. So if you're someone who's working on a book or anything creative, keep going. The world needs what you have to give. Your gift is important, it is necessary, and you have that passion and drive for a purpose. And I'm excited to see what you make. It's awesome. To celebrate the release of this book here, the longest in the series and the final book in the trilogy, I thought it might be fun to read some of my favorite parts from all three of these books. This is gonna be a little bit of a different fun video, but I was trying to think of something special to do and that hit me. And I thought, that's a pretty cool idea. It's hard to really say this is my absolute favorite part, but there are several parts in each book that mean a lot to me and speak to me in different ways. And so instinctively, whichever one came to my mind is the one that I picked from each book. So I'm gonna go ahead and read those. First up, The Blood Race, the first book in the series. This excerpt is from chapter 17. It is written from Icarus's point of view, and if you've read the book, by the way, all these excerpts are spoiler free. I made sure they were spoiler free because some of my favorites are definitely full of spoilers, and I'm not gonna do that to you guys. You'll have to explore that for yourself if you'd like to know the full story. I don't wanna ruin it for you. The sudden explosion of golden California sunlight burned my eyes and I turned away. The impact didn't seem to affect Hawk half as much. Calling quietly, she pumped her wings a few times and coasted the length of the hallway on the momentum. Blinking, I lifted into the air again to follow her, and we sailed through the empty kitchen and living room, passing windows with curtains drawn over them. Hawk focused on the front door and the lock retracted, allowing it to fling wide open. A blast of late summer warmth hit me in the chest. The scent of fresh earth, wisteria, the distant sound of pounding bass in passing cars. The sky was a violent shade of red-orange, opaque and unfurled like thousands of blank pages. Without hesitating, we rocketed up into it like we were the story it had been waiting for. The sun was just beginning to set. Seasoned as she was, Hawk barely had to move her wings to catch an updraft. I had to fight for it, though the wind eventually decided to play along, making it slightly easier. I didn't realize how high we were until I glanced down and noticed the shrinking roofs of houses and apartment buildings, thousands of them. LA had never looked so tiny and crowded. People were fading into invisibility, and cars were glossy specks contrasted against the raging rivers of asphalt, reflecting broken pieces of a burnt-out sun. Hawk called again and diverted my attention. She was flying at a slightly higher altitude, shooting occasional glances down in my direction to make sure I was doing okay. She tipped her wings slightly and swung for the skyline. A thin blanket of smog had nestled in among the palm trees, an eraser smudge out of which skyscrapers rose like glass giants, throwing sunbeams around like strobe lights. Like a moth attracted to the luminescence, Hawk burst from the air current into which she had flown and let gravity channel her in the direction of the glow. She fell a few hundred feet, then flared her wings open like a freckled amber parachute. I shadowed her with less grace. With my senses overwhelmed and my perception lagging, the building seemed at first to approach slowly, but then, as if a switch had been flipped, they came on in a freight train rush that had my heart instantly up in my throat. Mimicking Hawk as she tilted her wings again, I followed her as she cut through the spaces between the towering buildings like a knife. To my left was glass, to my right was glass. We were running in the veins between high rises, and whichever way I turned to look, there were reflections of wings and feathers and eyes that were braver than I knew to be my own. I love that scene. That I so vividly remember exactly what it felt like to write that scene and where I was and what I was. The vibe of the whole thing was just, I love reading it. I love the whole atmosphere of that scene was really, really fun. Next up, Worlds Beneath, the second book in the series. My favorite in the series. I am not too unbiased or whatever to admit. This is from chapter 24 from Hawk's point of view, and this is the bit where she is following the wolf to find Icarus. And if you've read the book, you know what part I'm talking about. Tucking my wings, I bulleted down into the forest again, obviously in hawk form. Swooping low over the wolf, its paws only became more of a blur in response. I pumped my wings as though my life depended on it. It was only when they began to feel as though they would tear away from my body with the strain that we came at once upon a clearing. The wolf came to a halt. I hovered in midair, stunned. In front of us was the stone platform surrounded by crumbling marble pillars. I dropped into human form, landing in the soft snow. Can I please have this power, like this ability, like this supernatural? Yeah, please. I want to be shapeshifter. That'd be so cool! The wolf seemed unalarmed by the transition. Impossible, I breathed, taking a tentative step forward. It was like a memory from a dream, a place I feared I would never find again. I dusted the snow off the place where I had found the etching on the pillar. My fingers burned against the cold marble. The iris, I whispered as the familiar shape came into view. How did you know to bring me here? I asked quietly. What is this place? I replied only by staring a moment longer and then licking its lips, stepping around me. It stalked through the snow to the edge of the circle where the stone began. It turned to look at me as if checking to see that it had my full attention. It barked sharply. What is it? Its ears flicked to attention and it pawed the earth anxiously. I stepped closer, curious. In response, it lurched forward, leaping into the circle and vanishing altogether. I froze, stunned. What on earth? I darted to the stone's edge, looking down at the place where the paw prints abruptly ended. My gaze continued onto the marble surface. For the first time, I noticed that this was the only place that snow wasn't. The stone was the purest white, camouflaging itself in the snow, yet not overcome by it. The closer I looked, the more I saw. Flecks of what looked like soil were trapped in the cracks here and there, and bits of what looked almost like flower petals danced in the wind, disappearing as they passed over the edge. A breeze blew gently, neither bitter nor cold, but warm. I stepped closer and then closer. I slowly reached out a hand. My fingertips disappeared. My heart leapt into my throat as I stood there, feeling as much made of stone as the pillars around me. The farther I reached, the more my hand disappeared, the more I felt the warmth emanating from the other side. The brush of flower petals, the rush of the sweet wind, and then another hand. Fingers that filled the spaces between my own, soft, warm, familiar skin, beckoning goosebumps to the surface of my own. I had no time to think. It pulled, and I let my instincts take over. I fell into the circle, into sunlight, bright and sweet like summer, into an atmosphere filled with the sounds of bird song and the scent of wildflowers, into a pair of familiar arms. With a force that felt like we were burning through the earth's atmosphere, we tumbled to the ground, into the soft grass where the white wolf lay, into the irises, into a tangle of Icarus. I love that scene. I loved writing that part about the portal and just all the freaky happenings that Hawk and Icarus experience and then eventually finding each other. That part was just like kind of the highlight of that whole twisty, turny plot of them looking for each other. Loved writing that bit. That was definitely one of my favorite scenes from this book. That and the ending. Yeah, ending of World's Beneath. Resurgence. One of my favorite scenes is very, very early on in the book. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is from chapter 5, and it's from Icarus's point of view. I'm not gonna give you any context for this one because I don't want to spoil it for you. If you're planning on reading this book, I don't want to spoil it for you. I just wanted to go back to sleep. I pressed my swollen eyelids shut with the heels of both my hands. I was supposed to be out there, trying to understand how Earth had slowly slipped further and further from the light, how we had wound up swallowing all of this like it was normal. I was supposed to be the sunset. I was supposed to be working with the anomalies, my family, the people I had grown to love in a strange way I couldn't quite put into words. I was supposed to be leading somehow. Leading. Such a big, messy, complicated word. I had no idea what it meant. Do you ever wonder where he is? Eros' words wove through my thoughts. Do you ever wonder why he left us? Where is he? Why did he leave us? Why did he leave me? I don't know what to do. I have no idea. I shook my head, forcing the nagging voice to be silent. I know you're with me, I mumbled a whisper, pressing myself up to sit. I know you haven't left me. I'm sorry I have such stupid thoughts. My legs swung over the edge. Stupid, stupid thoughts. Do you ever wonder why he left us to deal with this wreck with zero guidance? I got to my feet. The room full of bunks was empty. I'd been privileged to a few hours of downtime solely because of my injuries. I took advantage of my solitude. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I repositioned my arm in its sling. You don't know anything. You're nothing like me. You're an unbeliever. I refuse to listen. I struggled into a pair of pants and walked to the shower house. Stopping at a sink, I bent down to turn on the tap and splash a generous amount of cold water over my face. Large drops rolled down my neck and spattered my chest. Wearily, I stared at my eyes in the mirror, bloodshot and puffy beneath a stubble-covered head. Blood spattered my bandages, and the color had drained out of my skin. And you think you were made to lead these people, Icarus? You? Really? Didn't I just tell you to shut up? Look at yourself. Seriously, you're talking to yourself in a bathroom mirror. You're living in denial of your own logic. Logic and truth aren't always the same thing. Logic isn't always right. I shook my head, water dripping off my face. No, sometimes logic is a liar. Sometimes it's just a boundary, man-made, and there just to keep everyone from going farther than anyone's gone before. Or are you just saying that to comfort yourself, Icarus? Are you just using that as a crutch to deal with the fact that you may just be alone, stuck in the desert, cleaning latrines for a militia that could have you executed and replaced in a heartbeat? My wet hands gripped the side of the sink as I yelled at my reflection. No, it's not a crutch. It's not denial. It's not illogical because Sensei told me he would never leave me. Sensei told me I was ready for this, and if Sensei told me I'm ready, nothing else matters. I don't care what things look like. I don't care how bad things get, or how many times I get shot, or if anyone believes that I am who I say I am. My face burned as I shouted. None of it matters. I don't care how bad it gets. I believe. My voice ran ragged, breaking apart as hot tears stung my eyes. I believe. So reading that one, it's a little tricky reading it aloud and you not being able to actually see the page because some of it's italics as in internal dialogue, and Icarus is going back and forth between himself and himself at war with his own thoughts. And I really heavily related to this scene. I could identify with it, and I don't talk a lot about bits that I identify with because I like to like I said, I like it to mean what it means to the reader, but that part meant a lot to me, and I think a lot of us can probably identify with having internal dialogues, voices in our heads telling us one thing, and our heart, what we know our true potential is, what we're capable of, saying something completely else, saying, no, you've got this, and another voice being like, but I don't. And having to sort through that, having to unpack that and deal with it. And A lot of us, I think, deal with it every single day in our heads in a million different ways, and we have the ability to win. What's inside of us is more powerful than any thought that could pass through our minds. And that's a beautiful thought to me. So that scene was one of my favorites. Every time I read it, something just wells up inside of me, and it just impacts me in a new way every time. So there it is, the series completed. I can't believe it. My greatest hope for this series is that hopefully it makes you take a second look at yourself and see that you are so much more powerful than you realize. We all are. We all have so much inside of us, and we don't even realize it. So often we go through our daily lives and we say so many negative things about ourselves. Just if this series could do anything for anyone, I just hope that if you don't walk away from these books, if you read them and you don't walk away with anything else, I hope you walk away with the realization that you are such a valuable, unique person. You're here for such an important, big reason. And these characters in the books that have superpowers and these super abilities to create change and make the world better, it's not just about them, it's about you. And I wrote these books because I hope that you see yourself in these characters. I hope you find yourself in these pages. I hope you see that you are powerful and you are loved and you are capable of doing absolutely anything. You're capable of making this world such a beautiful place with the talents and the gifts that are inside of you. And that is such a beautiful thing, to be able to wake up every day and see that you have the potential and the capabilities, you have the capacity, you have all the tools you need. All the tools you need, it's right here inside of you. It's inside of you already. You don't need to go anywhere to find it. You don't need to ask anyone for advice. Advice is all good, but follow your heart, follow your spirit. If you're doing something that's good and beautiful, if you're spreading truth and love and peace, and you want to bring joy to the world, you want to make something that brings people together, please keep doing that thing. Keep doing that, because we need it. The world needs it so badly. The last book in this series, I saw so much of the world around me in the book when I was writing it. It doesn't need to be some post-apocalyptic trauma that we're fighting off. The world is hurting now. The world is in a desperate place now. Our planet and the people who live on it, and the animals and the environment, all of it. Do something. Do something to help make this world a better place. We all have such a big purpose, and we all have so much inside of us. So many gifts, so much. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna let that mean what it means to you. I don't want to get too much more into it. The last book in this series is out September 1st. September 1st. If you haven't had a chance to read the first two books, those are available everywhere books are sold online. I'll leave links below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that maybe you enjoyed listening to me read these excerpts. Maybe it inspired you. If you have no idea what the series is or what I'm even talking about, I hope maybe you just took away the fact that I love you, you are loved, you are valuable, you are here for a reason. Thank you for being here. I hope you have an absolutely awesome rest of your day. Go change the world. Go do something awesome with all that you've been given. You're incredible, and you're capable of doing any beautiful, good thing that you set your mind to. Stay stoked, my friend. I'll see you in the next video. Shh.